Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another CYPRX video banger. In today's video, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up your seatbelts because we are on the precipice of experiencing a massive utility bull market cycle, a super cycle that will blow the socks off of individuals that doubted utility in the digital asset space. With that being said, if you enjoy these video breakdowns, do us a favor, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe. We are going to start here by listening to Marcus Treacher, who used to work for Ripple some years ago, and we're going to pay attention to what he says here.
I think it's important to look at the big picture for blockchain, and the genie is out of the bottle. Blockchain's in the market and is being applied to today's world. That's having a fairly big impact. And my view is there'll be a moderate to large impact applying blockchain technology that's out and available off shelf to improve some of the processing that financial companies have today. But the big value is looking ahead to the point in time where the technology becomes mature enough to rethink and redefine how money is owned, moved, and utilized. And that will be seismic. And in that future, which is not too far ahead, you'll be looking at what it means to be a bank, an insurance company, an accountancy firm, a consultancy, a government department. That will change. And that's really where the impact of blockchain will come into the forefront.
Now, I understand that a lot of influencers have covered this picture, but I don't really think people understand the magnitude of what's taking place here via some of the things that we've talked about in previous video breakdowns, how they are rebuilding a new financial system. They are completely restructuring the whole entire financial infrastructure.
And what I think people miss about the Bitcoin ETF now, everyone says it's so great for Bitcoin. BlackRock, Invesco are not going after the Bitcoin ETF just for Bitcoin, right? And it's not just about tokenization either. If you make the tokenization bet and the Bitcoin bet and the Ethereum bet, you're really making a financial infrastructure bet. And so to me...
And our world of financial infrastructure is changing. And the way we transact with each other is going to change.
If you're coming to this space with a blank slate and you ignore all of the bias and the things you've heard in the headlines and the froth, and you just start with where we are from that lens, it's almost impossible as a thoughtful investor to say, I shouldn't be involved. There's something you're actually not being honest with yourself.
And here we can see Lauren Believe from Ripple. She is the head of public policy and government at Ripple, and she is sitting 2 seats down from Nellie Lang. Take a second and listen to this video clip from a BIS summit in 2023 of Nellie Lang confirming that in the future, they see digital assets will not be utilized for speculative trading and will instead be utilized for payments.
Since we think the future value of crypto is for payments and not for speculative trading.
And now she is sitting in a room with a Ripple representative and a Stellar representative. Now, this is going to play a key part in the rest of today's video breakdown. Now, let's take a second and listen to Eric from Ripple discuss and talk about how once companies can see that they're not going to get rug pulled via this new innovative technology, they will start to invest. Take a second and listen.
There's self-inflicted wounds as an industry, right, that have happened and have caused people to be scared. And so I think we're going to need to see more good actors that are acting, responsibly, that think about compliance first and foremost versus, oh, it's some bother that I have to deal with. We need governments to step up and provide regulatory clarity. I think we see some great examples of that around the world in Singapore, in the UAE, in the UK, not so much in the US. And so, if you have clear rules, you have people who follow the rules, and then companies can innovate and invest with confidence that there's going to be an ROI and they're not going to get rug pulled because some government who hasn't chosen to sort of be explicit about what you can and can't do is going to surprise them. So it's a combination of things, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, obviously, a good product, good service that solves a real world problem, provides real utility. It's not just about speculation and get rich quick and pumping up the price of crypto. I mean, all these things will line up. I think they're starting to line up. I see the companies are really stepping up. Certain jurisdictions, certain governments are stepping up. So I think a lot of reasons to be optimistic coming out of what was maybe a year ago, some reasons not to be very optimistic.
Great. Now, at the same exact conference, You have this gentleman here talking about how in previous market cycles, they were all driven by hype and speculation, and how now the technology has proven itself. We are on the precipice of a utility market cycle.
To date, most of the 3 cycles that we've had generally been driven by hype of one way or another, one sort or another, whether it's ICOs, whether it's DeFi, DeFi summer and NFTs. But the fundamental value behind it was always like a step behind because the tech wasn't actually mature enough. So while there is certainly some speculation still in today's markets of, oh, the Bitcoin halving is coming, or people that are trying to move money out of Russia and China, I think for the first time there's a combination of both institutional adoption and regulatory clarity that we're seeing across much of Europe, Japan, Hong Kong, Korea, the US to some degree. So kind of like the regulatory clarity, which is making institutions much more comfortable with delving into real world assets and the like, but also the technology itself is for the first time ever in a place where I think you can actually build viable applications that are performant, right? So we've solved the scalability problem with various layer 1s and layer 2s. We've reduced the cost to negligible gas fees. We've leveraged account abstraction and the like to make these applications actually usable. We have like robust dev tooling, which makes it easier for people to build. So for the first time, like in the last 6 months, we're actually able to build viable applications across a range of different sectors, and we're really seeing this.
Now listen to what these 2 representatives say when they go on to confirm that now that they've made sure that this technology works, financial institutions, they are starting to look at digital asset rails, building out again this new financial ecosystem, and how use cases from previous years and previous cycles will start to resurface, reiterating back to 2018, 2017, so on and so forth, and the top performers in those market cycles, referring to HEDERA, Stellar, and Ripple. Take a second and listen.
So everyone is really looking at new digital asset rails, other layer 2 or other solutions as well they could build on top of that to connect wholesale, tokenized deposits, and other new products and services they could launch. So I think in the digital assets landscape, when people see what others are doing in other jurisdictions, they look, take some of those use cases and ideas and say, oh, we could do DVP differently. We could do conditional payments. Here's ways that we could use this to solve problems we have in our financial ecosystem, in our economy. And then, of course, there's, the cross-border questions as well. But I think that seeing real projects, driven by real entities, I think is what I think really moves the space forward significantly. And I did want to counter, my perspective, I think, Gil, you're thinking about public blockchain technology sort of coming of age to where you could do real projects. I think in like the more of application-specific chains or side chains, permission consortium, and there's one remittance network that's been in production for 6 years now, and that's in the Philippines, and there's hundreds of banks who they themselves are unbanked because they're not connected to SWIFT. So there's a lot of these sorts of uses of the technology that have been in production and are very, they're compliant. You have to have SOC 2 and ISO 27K. There's different types of compliance or central bank approval for cloud workloads or things like that. But they've gone through all those hoops, and they have, product that's been providing a lot of ROI and benefits to their, target users.
You're 100% correct. And in the 16, 17, 18 cycle, the real winners were kind of private consortiums and your HEDERAs and others that were, and Stellar that went after, and Ripple that went after like private consortiums. And you're 100% correct in that.
Yeah.
So we are, for a fact, starting to see that mindset shift from a speculative cycle, a speculative era of existence in this digital asset landscape to real world utility, where Ripple and Stellar are literally sitting next to Nellie Lang, who in 2023 told the world that she sees digital assets being utilized for payments instead of speculative trading in the future.
But just seeing that mindset shift from the talent side of things, where people are like more interested in coming to the space and building real solutions for end users, coupled with rollups, account abstraction, other improvements we'll see this year. I think there are a ton of use cases that we've been talking about for a really long time, from like 2017 ICOs that will finally come to market in the near future.
Hold on, let's roll that back. A whole bunch of use cases from 2017 that will come to market in the near future. And then let's replay again what the gentleman said about the top performers back in 2017 via HEDERA, Stellar, and Ripple, and take that into consideration that Stellar and Ripple are sitting right next to Nellie Lang, who told you all in 2023 that we're going to transition from a speculative trading cycle into digital assets being utilized for payments.
I think there are a ton of use cases that we've been talking about for a really long time, from like 2017 ICOs that will finally come to market in the near future. And hopefully people will be interacting on chain without necessarily knowing that they're using crypto at all.
You're 100% correct. And in the 16, 17, 18 cycle, the real winners were kind of private consortiums and your HEDERAs and others that were, and Stella that went after, Ben Ripple that went after like private consortiums. And you're 100% correct in that. Yeah.
Now, another thing I want you to pay attention to what she says is how this technology will be so finely integrated into the system that people won't even acknowledge or notice that they're using it.
I think there are a ton of use cases that we've been talking about for a really long time, from like 2017 ICOs that will finally come to market in the near future. And hopefully people will be interacting on chain without necessarily knowing that they're using crypto at all.
That's great.
People will be interacting on chain without noticing that they are using it at all. That is a massive statement. Now take a second and listen to this updated conference that Ripple was a part of, where this lady goes on to say the same exact thing, but then pay attention to how she talks about the infrastructure.
I think there are a ton of use cases that we've been talking about for a really long time, from like 2017 ICOs that will finally come to market in the near future. And hopefully people will be interacting on chain without necessarily knowing that they're using crypto at all.
And thus, going back to the question that you asked, in a sense, for the people, why would people use it? So I think that I'm not sure that the European Central Bank actually asked this question, because the daily use, I do believe there wouldn't be anyhow, you wouldn't feel the change. As long as you're using your card or whatever is there, it's not necessarily the change in the usage, it's the change in the infrastructure.
Think about what Marcus Treacher said at the beginning of this video breakdown, a maturation of the digital asset landscape where everything is integrated into the back-end system. People aren't even realizing that they're using it. Now let's take a second and focus in on the fact that she mentioned infrastructure.
I do believe there wouldn't be anyhow, you wouldn't feel the change as long as you're using your card or whatever is there. It's not necessarily the change in the usage, it's the change in the infrastructure.
And what has Brad Garlinghouse said on air on two publicly displayed news platforms in reference to infrastructure?
Look, Ripple at its core is a blockchain infrastructure company serving enterprises. We started with payments and financial institutions. We've moved into custody, a lot of overlap with those same financial institutions. But we're going to expand with that same thematic of infrastructure, enterprise-based. It's served us well.
The non-U.S. market has been really, really strong for us. And
you're going to be the infrastructure around all of that.
That is our goal. And we think that opportunity is huge. We think that's going to be great for Ripple. We think it's going to be great for XRP, which is a digital asset we use.
So I've seen several cycles. I mean, what's exciting right now is the amount of infrastructure that's been built. There's a lot of questions on scalability, not dissimilar to the internet in 1995, 1996, when it was really slow to download anything, send an email, and what we've seen great strides in is these layer 2 solutions. How do you verify transactions better or more efficiently with zero knowledge proofs, and so that whole scaling has been built over the last few years since 2020, and that's going to enable new applications to be built and enterprises to better utilize blockchain infrastructure, applications to be built, and enterprises to better utilize blockchain infrastructures.
Infrastructure, enterprise-based, it's served us well.
So I think we're just getting to the point where we're going to see more mass adoption over the next 5 years.
So the lady goes on to say, can we redesign the financial infrastructure?
Economy, again, also computer science perspective is like, can we redesign the financial and monetary infrastructure that we have? And who would be the winner and who would be the losers at the end of that change of the infrastructure.
And we know that they are for a fact. Take a second to Sagar Sarbai. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He is now the global head of business solutions and advisory at Fireblocks, whom used to work at Ripple, go on to tell you all on a panel discussion that took place only a couple of months ago that the infrastructure is being laid for these financial institutions to adopt these digital assets at scale.
I remember when I was in a bank about 7 years ago, My last project with that bank was we actually issue a tokenized corporate bond way back in 2016. So tokenization is not a new concept. The European bank I was part of was the first bank to do this project. And there were many other projects running back then, but they never saw the day of the light because there were many missing pieces. There were no scaling solutions. There was no liquidity. More importantly, the exchanges or the FMIs were missing in action. That is now changing this time around. We are seeing many layer 2 or scaling solutions, infrastructure providers like Fireblocks, helping banks and other institutions, making it easier to do it. But most importantly, we are seeing the large FMIs, exchanges, CCPs, custodians coming in and taking part in this ecosystem. And that makes banks very comfortable with doing this at scale.
This is absolutely massive, and all of this information is going to go vastly unnoticed via the mainstream platforms. Tap in, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the precipice of experiencing a massive super cycle in the digital asset space, give or take some trials and tribulations along the way, like the current macro environment. Obviously, of course, any regulatory hurdles that we need to overcome. But once all of that is behind us, it is my firm belief that retail investors that aren't involved in the now via the low prices of these digital asset prices that are being projected to us as I record this video breakdown are going to be priced out in the next couple of years. When these large financial institutions start utilizing these digital assets for their utility. As always, many blessings to you guys. I'm not telling you guys to go out there and buy XLM, XRP, or HBAR. I'm just asking that you all do your research on the private meetings, the things that are happening behind closed doors, the clips, the video breakdowns, all of these videos together, and all of the videos that I've accumulated today. Okay, think about this. If you take all the views and you put them together, it probably wouldn't even equate to 3,000 views. So just take that into consideration. Nobody's paying attention to this information. Everybody's distracted, either through fear, getting shaken out of the digital asset landscape, or distracted by speculation and meme coins that are also going to get wrecked in the near future once regulations come into play and real utility kicks in. Pay attention to detail. As always, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video breakdown.